Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very, very important quick breaking news update. We have just got news 30 minutes ago that another major bank has just collapsed. This is getting absolutely wild, people. 3 banks have collapsed in a matter of 3 days. Well, what does this mean? This means that the whole banking system is at risk of failing if the US government and the Federal Reserve doesn't step in and step in quickly, because panic is spreading. People are doing what I've been talking about for months now. They're running to the banks, they're withdrawing everything, and these banks are now a huge risk of failing. Because what many people don't know, what the Federal Reserve did during 2020 is they made an absolute crazy regulation. They said banks didn't have to have any reserve requirements at all. That's right, I'm not sure every Joe and Jane actually knows that your bank would be lucky to have 10% of its cash that its depositors have deposited at the bank at one time. So again, people, this is not clickbait, this is not doom and gloom, this is me trying to warn you that things are hitting the fan right now. So let's get into this breaking news right now. So look at this, everyone. Regulator closes New York Signature Bank, citing systemic risk. And again, what do I keep saying, everybody? Look for the signs, look for the signs. But of course, when I try to give people the signs, they say you're just a fearmongerer. Well, people, we've got many signs that there's going to be more banks collapsing this week when the markets open and also when the banks open. Because look what happened this past week. Signature Bank was down 37%. We can also see on Friday it dropped 22%. This was telling us that something big is happening. Maybe their executives were selling like what was happening at Silicon Valley. Look at this. SVB CEO sold 3.6 million stocks days before the bank failure. Also this, Silicon Valley Bank employees receive bonuses hours before government takeover. So you have to pay attention to what the executive's doing and look what the stock's doing. Follow the money and you'll find your answer. So US regulators said Sunday shut down New York-based Signature Bank, a second financial institution they shuttered after Silicon Valley Bank collapsed. Now, you want more proof that the contagion is spreading? Look at this. SVB UK business to be declared insolvent by the Bank of England. So these are global banks that's having consequences not just in the US but around the world. We're also announcing a similar systemic risk exemption for Signature Bank New York, which was closed today by its state chartering authority, Treasury, Federal Reserve, and FDIC. Said in a joint statement Sunday evening. This is absolutely crazy, everyone. The third bank closing down, the regulators stepping in. They know something big is happening. And you think this is the only regional bank that's going to collapse? No, there's many more. What could be next, everyone? Look, First Republic, their stock down 33% this week. Western Alliance, they're down 34% this week. And this is a massive one. I think this could be the next to go. PacWest Bancorp down 55% last week. Now, do you want more proof that the contagion is spreading? Look at this. So Stablecoin USDC breaks dollar peg after firm reveals it had $3.3 billion in SVB exposure. Now, this is a stablecoin, a cryptocurrency stablecoin, which was one of the biggest, second only to Tether, with a market cap of around $40 billion. And you can see on this news, it actually broke the dollar, which is never done in history. And it fell all the way down to around 87 cents. It has recovered pretty much now to 99 cents, but it still has not fully recovered. And, you know, even if it does recover, this is very worrying. Now back to Signature Bank, we need to pay attention to what's happening. The banking regulators said the depositors at Signature Bank will have full access to their deposits. All deposits of this institution will be made whole. As with the resolution of Silicon Valley Bank, no losses will be borne by the taxpayer, the regulators said. Now, this is an absolute lie, everyone. Janet Yellen just announced a new $25 billion facility to backstop these banks. Who do you think is going to pay for it? Also, the Federal Reserve is creating a new facility to backstop these banks that are going under. Well, who do you think is going to pay for that? We're going to pay for it with our purchasing power getting diminished, and that's just going to encourage more and more banks to take more risk and ultimately lead to a bigger collapse. Because if the whole system goes down, it doesn't matter how much money the Federal Reserve prints, people will completely lose faith in the dollar and the banking system, and it'll all go down. Exactly how big is this bank? So Signature is one of the main banks for the cryptocurrency industry. Well, we all know what was going to happen with that. As of December 31st, Signature had $110 billion in total assets and $88 billion in total deposits, according to securities filing. So this is getting big, everyone. When you start to add in all these banks' losses in total, we're getting close to $1 trillion that potentially be wiped out. To stem the damage and stave off a bigger crisis, the Fed and Treasury created an emergency programmed to backstop deposits at Signature Bank and Silicon Valley Bank using the Fed's Emergency Lending Authority. Now again, if you're wondering how these banks collapsing, let me explain it to you in 60 seconds very simply, because I want every average Joe and Jane to understand what's going on, because the government will tell you, look, it's too complicated if you understand, you can't possibly understand the banking system. No, it's very simple, everyone. What happened in 2020 is banks were flooded with deposits with all this new money being created. Then what the banks have to do is, when you deposit money at the bank, that's actually a liability on their sheet. We may think it's an asset. No, to the banks, that's a liability. So then they have to go buy an interest-bearing asset to pay interest on your deposit. So normally what they'll do is they'll go buy a bond, or mortgage-backed security, a treasury, etc. Well, what we saw during 2021 was the biggest bond market bubble in history. Yields were almost at zero. The 10-year had a yield of 0.5%. But then what we saw during 2022 is these bonds collapsed. Bonds prices fell around 40%. So now when people are trying to withdraw their money, the bank normally can just hold that bond to maturity and not lose anything. But now they're having to sell those bonds at a 40% loss, and they're actually not able to get enough money to pay back their depositors when they're wanting to withdraw. Now, there's just only a few withdrawals. It's normally okay. But what we're seeing right now is a full-on banking panic, and the banks do not have your money. Now, also another option for the banks, what they would normally do was just sell stock. But nobody has faith in these banks anymore, so nobody wants to buy their stock. So when they do sell it, it's selling for pennies on the dollar, so they also can't get cash that way. So everyone, if I was you, when the bank opens today, run to the bank, withdraw as much money as you can until we wait to see what happens. I think we're going to see more banks fall. This is just a 31-day. This is absolutely crazy. Also, Bank of America, they're the biggest major bank that has the most unrealized losses, about 43% of its book value they have in unrealized losses, about 110 billion. So also I'd be worried if I was a Bank of America customer as well. And what's going to be very critical is if the Federal Reserve keeps on lifting interest rates. So I think they need to, because inflation's out of control, but I think we all know they're going to save the banks over the people. So if they don't lift interest rates, inflation's going to get much worse, and we're going to have to go to much higher interest rates down the road, and the crisis will just be even bigger. But everyone, what do you think about all of this? Let me know down below. Now, for all my loyal viewers and subscribers still watching, you're awesome. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next video.